Hey folks, it's the Blind Guy here coming back at you with another Should You Watch. And on this episode we're looking at 2007's Atonement, directed by Joe Wright and starring Keira Knightley and James McAvoy, I think is McAvoy, is how you say his name. This is a really interesting movie. I had not actually heard of this movie, which makes me a little embarrassed because it's fairly highly rated on IMDb. But I saw it on there and said, oh, I got to check that out. So I did, and I enjoyed it. I do like this movie. The general plot is we're in a wealthy estate in Great Britain in the 1930s. And it's hard to tell who the actual main character is in this movie. It's got several. One of the main characters is a 13-year-old girl who's an aspiring writer. And she, you know this in the movie, she falsely accuses her sister's boyfriend of raping somebody else, and the movie focuses on the implications and the ramifications of that false accusation, and it's well done. The movie has got just a little bit of a warning. It does have some rough sexual language in writing, but it's not very rough in depiction. But that's why it's R, is because of the language, and it's got some language between characters. Just so you know, I want you guys to walk into it blindly, get it, and be upset by that. As someone who has been falsely accused of doing something before, this movie really hit home for me. I know that a lot of people have gone through things like that. Sometimes the character is well intended, sometimes they're not. In this movie, the 13-year-old girl is fairly innocent. She's a little bit neglectful with her testimony, but you do like her. You don't dislike her, and I think they do a good job of that in the movie, is making her still a sympathetic character, even though she makes a wrong decision and hurts a lot of lives. The movie is not based on a true story, and I think that's interesting to me because with movies like this, I'm never quite sure how to handle them. Movies that are so realistic that they feel like they're a true story and they're almost portrayed as if they are. But this movie's not. And so I think, obviously, you can't just find a true story and make a movie if it didn't happen. But the movie, I think, would have been a little stronger if it had been based on a true story. Keira Knightley does a very good job in this movie. I'm not always a fan of hers, but she's strong in this one. And then James McAvoy, he's amazing in this movie. I think that he's the best actor in this entire movie. The movie is worth watching just because of him. I don't think I've seen him in much, but I was super impressed by his performance in this movie. It's awesome. It goes through World War II and does a Dunkirk scene where actually it does the Battle of Dunkirk part of it. And it does one of those long continuous shot type scenes. I don't know how they did this one, because in the entire scene I could tell that there was maybe one cut. So if they snuck the other cuts in there, they did a really good job with it. And this is 10 years before, or even more than 10 years before 1917. So I was very impressed by that scene. The movie does have kind of a meandering feel a bit, but I think it's meant to, so that didn't bother me so much. I just think the movie's very strong. It scores a 7.9 on IMDb. I think that's fairly accurate. I think I'm going to buy it. I think I'm going to order it. I maybe put it at a 7.7, but not that far off. Joe Wright, is kind of not controversial, but I know a lot of people disagree about whether his Pride and Prejudice adaptation is worth watching. You know who you are, but I think that he nails this movie. I was very, very entertained by this movie, and I was only going to watch the first half of it because it was pretty late, and I ended up watching the whole thing. So that usually says something for me. If I'm actually going to give up sleep to finish the movie, I'm enjoying it. So I can recommend this one for you. Check it out. If you're age appropriate, it is rated R, but that is 2007's Atonement. I will see you guys on the next episode, and laters on the Menjay.
Laters on the Menjay.